I knew I could count on you.
Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
Another week, another Ahsoka episode, another day of me crying. Being very straight up with you guys, Ahsoka has to be one of my most favorite Star Wars projects of all time, maybe ever since the prequel trilogy. This show has been nothing short of amazing. Once again, with episode 7 here now already, next week is going to be episode 8 with the finale. Welcome to my reaction video slash initial thoughts video here for Ahsoka episode 7. We are going to go ahead, hop right on into it, discuss a little bit about this episode. And of course, yes, I'll have a full breakdown video here on the channel a little bit later into the regards of references and things that you might have missed throughout this episode, as well as a number of Easter eggs and theories for this episode here as well. Some of those theories I'll also be discussing here in this video as well. Starting off, the episode starts off with a Leia name drop once again, having Senator Organa being name dropped in the New Republic. I just love seeing Star Wars politics, and especially exploring these Star Wars politics in the New Republic, the way that they are operating, the way that they work, and even the reason for their faults, of their downfall that we eventually see in the sequel trilogy with the rise of the First Order as well, is something that is so fascinating and something so interesting to me. And to see that explored in the Ahsoka show just a little bit more, I think has been absolutely amazing. I can't wait to see more of these Star Wars politics moving forward in the future of the Mandoverse, so not just in the Ahsoka show, but of course other Mandoverse shows, like maybe the Book of Boba Fett Season 2 or future seasons of The Mandalorian, Star Wars Skeleton Crew for whenever that show comes out. This shows that they have the potential and the opportunity to do that Rangers of the New Republic show that they had announced alongside with Ahsoka back in 2020. Since then, that project, though, however, hasn't really gone anywhere and has even been said to have been shelved or canned. As I digress, though, Star Wars politics, having Mon Mothma like in the actual flesh as well, not in a hologram, with Genevieve O'Reilly, as we also see her playing Mon Mothma, the character in Rogue One, and then also recently in the Andor show, has been really spectacular, very awesome, and I just love to see more of her. Can't wait to see more of her down the road, not just within the Mandoverse, but then also in Andor Season 2 as well. So seeing some of those Star Wars politics was definitely a highlight and a great way to kick off this episode here as well, although unfortunately I think that this will probably be the last time that we'll see any of these political sides or the New Republic, honestly, in the Ahsoka show. Maybe we'll see them at the end of episode 8 if it ends happy. But anyway, moving forward, then we're kicked in with an update with Ahsoka Huyang aboard the Purrgil, that they're traveling over to this other galaxy that's outside of the main Star Wars galaxy, of course, of where Ezra Bridger is and Thrawn are. She's keeping up with her training just a little bit, so she's not getting rusty while sitting around. She's preparing for the fight, of course, that is to come with Thrawn and whatever else crosses paths with her in the future here. We get more Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker. Like, I called it. I had a whole video talking and discussing about this here on the channel, so talking about that kind of stuff in theories and then seeing it actually unfold and like happen and come true is also really awesome. Although they did put a little bit of a twist, it was a hologram of Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker. That whole theory revolves around the idea of the TV spot that used unused dialogue of Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker, a much rather newer dialogue. It was unused dialogue, though, however, that we didn't see in either episode 4 or 5 of the Ahsoka Disney Plus project. So without a doubt, seeing Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker, as I had mentioned, seeing that was a surprise and a most welcome one, if I may say, of course, as well. In my theory videos, though, I had discussed that, if we see, and when we see more Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker, I was theorizing on the idea that it's going to be in a Force Ghost form, most prominently, unless we enter, like, the World Between Worlds again, or maybe get another flashback, and we didn't get really any of that. Maybe, if for anything, we can classify it as a flashback, but it was a hologram of Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker. It's very neat and emotional to see that attachment that Ahsoka does still kind of hold on to her former master, saying that he was a great master to Huyang as well. Seeing that she keeps up with those recordings is very special and something that is super neat, and it kind of creates more of a pathway for us to see more of Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker moving forward with the character of Ahsoka, keeping that by her side. Of course, it doesn't have to necessarily be through flashbacks or through the World Between Worlds or like a Force Ghost or anything of that necessarily. It could just be simple as this, purpose of having those hologram scenes. Okay, so anyway, aside from all that, we go ahead and jump into the action from there. The Purrgil are exiting hyperspace is what Huyang is telling Ahsoka, and indeed they are. They are meeting here at this new galaxy. For whatever reason, the chances are there, and that they actually do end up in this new galaxy. I feel like that there's a little bit of a deviant there. They need to explain it, or have explained it a little bit better to as of how Ahsoka was able to communicate there with the Purrgil to tell the Purrgil, hey, we want to go here, we want to go to Peridia where our friends are, and I just felt like that there could have been more of an explanation for that, a little bit more, but that's kind of besides the point. Like, it's Star Wars, okay? They move stuff with their minds, like, okay, come on, Star Wars. And right off the bat as well, we jump into the action. As I had to mention, we see more of how Thrawn is that kind of a war tactician, of course. He set an Imperial minefield for these Purrgils to unfortunately crash into. They all start, like, getting blown up and stuff, but they're fine. They have thick skin, and they just kind of, like, shoot out of there after Huyang and Ahsoka decide to jump ship and jump out of the Purrgil's mouth there, and then run onto a little bit of a chase scene there with the fleet that came from the Eye of Sion, the giant hyperspace ring that Morgan Elspeth and all of them had traveled to this planet of Peridia. Of course, they go from there, hiding in that debris field. Was very interesting. Seeing that was it honestly had me on my toes. Like, there's a potential, like, there is no guarantee that Ahsoka does live through her own show. Of course, it's kind of like a given thing that, fingers crossed, yeah, she'll have a happy ending and live through her own show, but there's no guarantee of that. Like, she doesn't have any of that plot armor necessarily, and that really goes for all of the characters in the Mandoverse, of course, unless, you know, we're talking about like Luke Skywalker or, you know, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Ben Solo. Of course, they all appear later down the road in the sequel trilogy, but like every other character, and I just feel like that's like an unappreciated fact in a way of the Mandoverse. Like, they keep us on our toes with that whole aspect of things. So the action's kicked off from there. Thrawn is already up to those shenanigans, being that tactician mind that we've seen so prominently throughout the animated Star Wars Rebels show, seeing that shown throughout this episode here, and then also last week's episode 6 as well, really like sets the tone, the theme of how we're going to be perceiving Thrawn throughout not just the Ahsoka show, but also the future of the Mandoverse, especially with Dave Filoni's Mandoverse Cultimation movie that had been announced a little bit earlier this year at Star Wars Celebration, of course, as well. We're able to catch up a little bit more there later down the road with Sabine and Ezra Bridger. We see that, you know, Sabine's catched Ezra up to just about everything that's happened in the main Star Wars galaxy, the fall of the Empire, the death of Darth Vader, the death of the Emperor, and everything in between, what the rest of the Ghost crew are kind of up to now at that point. And she also shares a little bit of information on herself as well, saying that, oh, Ahsoka took me as a Padawan as well. It was very cool. And then also seeing how she was kind of beating around the bush on the status of Ahsoka, because she doesn't necessarily know what went on with Ahsoka, and she does believe at this point in the time, I kind of forgot, honestly, even though it's been 3 episodes, that Sabine thinks that Ahsoka is actually dead after seeing Baylan Skoll knock her off of that cliff at the end of episode 4, and she ends up in the world between worlds. And then also just kind of forwarding here, everything else that we saw later on in the latter half of the episode just had me on my toes. I was like, this episode, I was just like, Ahsoka, she has that potential to like not make it out of her own show. Like, I kind of realized that throughout this episode. Same thing for Ezra Bridger, and I want to lastly mention that Iman S. Fondi is a perfect casting for Ezra Bridger. Like, he just plays the character so dang good of how we last saw him in animation. I also want to lastly leave you guys with that reduel between both Sabine and Shinhati, and that rematch, much rather, between Baylan Skoll and Ahsoka was very fascinating. It was so awesome, and I wondered if we're going to see more with their overall characters. Like, I feel like the way that they left Baylan Skoll at the end of this episode might have been satisfactory, and like they just might not do much else without him down the road, honestly. Okay guys, I think I've talked a little bit enough here about this episode here so far. Of course, please, I'm dying to know all of your thoughts and opinions, your overall initial reaction and thoughts in the comment section down below, as well as some of your theories as well. Of course, as I had also mentioned at the beginning of this video, I of course will have a full breakdown video here for Ahsoka Episode 7 regarding references, Easter eggs, and things that you guys might have missed throughout the episode. All the more reason to grab that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great one. May the Force be with you as always. Peace out.